Welcome to Green Hills Shadow. Chapter 14, of Pranks and Truths.
After the day of visiting of Mobius, Tom and Maddie decided to have a quiet night and starting with movies with the kids. Sonic was quiet, but that was understandable considering. He and Tails stuck to each other like glue like they usually do, just as Knuckles and Shadow were doing. Tom felt like just sleeping the rest of the night away, but it wouldn't do him any good, considering he has work the next day. As did Maddie, as heartbreaking as today could be, the world didn't stop spinning. The movie they stuck on played absent-mindedly in the sheriff's mind. He was just catching up with the hoops of emotions these past few weeks. He still felt honored Knuckles wanted to include his old life, his history with his new family. But it still took a lot out of the adults. Sonic and Tails eventually fell asleep, so both of them had taken them to their beds, which left the humans with the other two Mobians who were still awake. Knuckles was meditating while Shadow was listening to music using the music player Tom lent to him and thrilled with the idea that there was music in such a small device, obviously to unwind from the events of today. Ozzy was asleep on his dog bed. Tom went into the kitchen to have a snack, fully intending to have ice cream, maybe, comfort food for the win. Maddie came down the stairs and took her seat on the couch and rolled her neck tiredly, the events catching up with them, but wanted to spend some time with the echidna, who was grateful for the assurance. The Master Emerald may have sent the echidna some warm energy hugs. He accepted it. Shadow listened to the different genres of music on the small device, taken with how much more he's missed out in the years. Tom had a lot of music and he really couldn't decide on what to pick. Then a song caught his interest and he put it on. It was by Kenny Rogers and he listened it.
Now that's another old classic.
Shadow looked up to see Tom sharing his ice cream with Maddie.
Kenny Rogers, you certainly like the old stuff, don't you?
Shadow responded back, listening to the lyrics.
Sonic says I am an oldie? I have no idea what that means.
Maddie giggled and turned to the hedgehog lying on the beanbag chair.
It means you prefer the old songs to the newer ones. Not a bad thing, really. You know, singers that this generation doesn't.
He says he's going to introduce me to BTS at some point?
Tom snorted.
He's gonna start the K-pop thing, that boy?
Shadow isn't quite sure what K-pop was. Knuckles got up and stretched, making his way to the sapient, only to be pulled into his mother's loving embrace, and he blinked.
I want a hug from my eldest.
Mother.
Knuckles blushed but didn't pull away from her. He had more strength than the humans combined, but she still somehow always got the better of him. He got a kiss on the head and a ruffle of his dreadlocks.
Is that a female thing? Just randomly coming out of nowhere and grabbing at a person?
I mean, take my dad, for example. Loud, unapologetic, and very humorous. Practically nearly lawnmowed me and Maddie when he found out he became a grandpa. Then did it again when he discovered about this one in Tails.
He chuckled, as did Maddie.
Ah, yes, I remember that. Do not be fooled by his age. He lifted the fox up like he weighed nothing. Which is true. Had a little more trouble with me, but Elder Thomas is unique.
Knuckles got another kiss off Maddie and he started to protest, but Body went limp, accepting the fate he was given.
Why do you ask?
Maria. She sometimes just pounced on me.
He thought about it.
One time, I was walking down a hallway, no one in sight, nor sound. Next thing, I know I was scooped into her arms and she hugged me.
He had a soft smile at the memory.
But like Maddie, it was done in a way to say, you are adorable.
Maddie laughed at the comparison, but he wasn't exactly wrong. That's how she felt with all her boys thus far, and the black sapient was no different. Just something about them. But secretly she and Tom cheered, their inner selves ecstatic. That Shadow was willing to open up about something like that. His walls were indeed coming down.
It's also a sister thing. It sounds like you both were close, baby. Did you ever have fights?
Shadow blinked.
Like physically hit her. Why would I do that?
Oh, he didn't get it.
No, what Maddie means is, did you ever have a sibling fight? Like a disagreement, yelling, kinda like how Knuckles and Sonic could be?
Or Rachel and me.
Maddie hummed. But all they got was confusion on the black sapient's face.
One time, Knuckles and Sonic were in an argument. In public, mind you. Sonic had the wise idea to rile him up.
I rather not recall this.
And a chase began, Sonic declaring he'll never catch him. So Knuckles stuck his leg out and he went flying into the pillow section, feathers everywhere. Whole store just had a rain down of feathers. Then Sonic Spin dashed.
Destroyed the sprinkler.
Maddie nodded and Shadow just gaped.
No.
He was enthralled in the story, pausing the music just to listen, and Knuckles sighed with embarrassment.
Not my finest moment, being flung into the ceiling. But karma did strike the hedgehog for that.
Tom looked at him.
How so?
Shadow sent him into the ceiling.
That got laughs out of his parents, while Shadow grumbled a little but wanted more.
So what happened?
We grounded them for 2 weeks. The amount of money damage they caused. If we don't laugh at it now, we'd cry.
Maddie gave Knuckles an eye, twinkled with bemusement, and the echidna rubbed his neck and grunted.
But that's what siblings do. When they fight, they do stupid stuff to each other.
And they also prank each other. So fair warning if Sonic decides on your punishment for the vengeance.
Ah yes, his quest of vengeance. He's certainly playing the waiting game.
The echidna rubbed his chin. The bruise was still on his throat, but he paid it no mind. Shadow didn't look overly concerned. Mostly because he isn't a brother to the blue hedgehog. Why prank someone who was not a sibling? Taking in what they asked, though, he had to think.
I mean, maybe. She had her moments where she could be snappy, but those were on her sick days. I knew she didn't mean to, she was just frustrated with how things were.
Shadow rubbed his ring thinking about her. Tom tilted his head.
You mentioned she was sick. What was she sick with?
NIDS. Neuroimmunodeficiency syndrome.
He spoke it off heart. Like he was used to saying it. What? Tom and Maddie sat up straighter, looking very confused. They've never heard of such a disease. Is it a Mobian only one?
I've never heard of such a thing.
Knuckles tilted his head. Never mind, it wasn't.
It's a rare disease. She needed low gravity to keep her condition in remission.
Shadow looked at the ground. Obviously it still upset him greatly to this day over how sick his beloved sister was. And Shadow was supposed to cure that? How? It should never have been his responsibility. Tom chewed his lip, wanting words with his parents. But it sounded like that isn't possible anymore. This kid just kills his heart, and it wasn't even his fault. As Knuckles said, life did not honor him well.
Shadow? Come here for a moment.
Tom motioned for the hedgehog to come over. He earned a puzzled expression, but obeyed the sheriff, coming over. Then he put his hand on the black hedgehog's head, pulling him and pressing his head against his, and the hedgehog tensed but allowed it. He noticed Shadow still did not like a lot of contact, but something like this, he accepted to a small degree.
Thank you for telling us, bud.
The ebony sapient blushed, and he grumbled like a typical teen, making Tom chuckle. Maddie still had her arms around her eldest, so she motioned for the hedgehog to sit next to Tom on the couch.
You have any more stories about her? Or do you want to hear how I knocked out my sister once?
She had not only Shadow boggle his eyes at her, but also Knuckles, who looked equally stunned.
No, you did not, mother.
The echidna spoke, his eyes wide.
I did. Siblings fight, boys. You lot do too, you just don't realize it at times. I got grounded for a week.
She laughed.
Rachel laughs with me to this day about it.
Tom snorted. He has brothers, so he understands that all too well.
I have brothers too, and we fought at times.
And they continued to tell tales of their past throughout the night, before eventually retiring and got into their beds with a lighter heart than before. It was like they willed Sonic's vengeance. Or at least one of the promised ones. Mornings dawned, the days went by, everyone doing the new normal routine that became their lives. From the patrols, yoga sessions, book readings, school works, music discovery and game nights. 3 weeks have passed, almost 4 now since he was found. Knuckles went off on his patrol. After breakfast, Shadow had gone into the bathroom and brushed his teeth, still adjusting to be able to do this. Tails came in and yawned.
Mint.
Shadow grunted while brushing and handed over the mint toothpaste to the small fox. He found that Tails had an unhealthy obsession with mint, to which he denied, of course. Toothpaste was mint, chocolates he liked were mint, he liked the smell of mint. He can deny it all he wants, but Shadow knows he's obsessed. Tails began to brush his teeth. Oswell, the fox, noticed the black hedgehog started to have his own routine around the house. If he was quite honest, it felt like Shadow had been with them for a lot longer. It was getting comfortable, and he enjoyed having him stay, plus he was getting braver, less jumpy, and more willing to converse and ask stuff to his parents. Wade was still a work in progress, but it's still a lot considering how bad Shadow's life with humans were. Still, he's happy that he's improving. Shadow took the mouthwash, and measured the liquid, then tossed some in his mouth, and began to gurgle. Eventually spitting it out after feeling it's done its duty in keeping his teeth in condition. When Shadow found out about mouthwash he always took it. Tails wondered if it's because he never got control over his own hygiene being a captive, so that now that he does, he's making sure to take full advantage of it. He looked a lot healthier but he still needed some weight. He was doing much better regardless. His parents were going to see if Shadow would be willing to go to the food store with them. He sat his toothbrush with the rest of theirs, making his way out the bathroom and up the stairs, only to find Sonic with some strange red vegetable.
Oh, Shadow!
He waved him over and the black sapient did so.
Quick question, have you ever had a chili before?
The ebony hedgehog tilted his head and hummed.
I do not think so. Why?
I got this chili, was thinking we both could try it.
Sonic grinned, almost too innocently. He should have really listened to the tone of the blue sapient. He really should have. So Shadow nodded as Sonic held the chili out for him, but he gave him a look of question. Sonic laughed.
You bite into it first. No use in halving it, it's gonna get eaten either way.
Shadow took the chili and sniffed it. He really didn't get too much of a scent, and he took in the odd shape. Fascinating stuff on this planet.
So I just hold the green stem and bite.
That's the idea, yeah.
Shadow shrugged, still oblivious to Sonic's mischief, and bit into the chili. It was a crunchy texture and he chewed away. Sonic's quills began to stick out like needles for whatever reason. He handed it back without too much of a reaction. Until it hit him. He choked. His hand was on his throat and he winced, eyes watering, and he coughed. Shadow's throat was on fire, his gums were on fire, his tongue was on fire, and his chest now felt like it were on fire. His muzzle began to turn red as well. Oh chaos, it's getting worse. He winced and the burning only increased. Tails had come up and was startled to see the sweat beginning to form on the black hedgehog and ran over in concern.
Shadow? What?
He spotted the chili on Sonic's hand, who actively tried to keep back the laughter.
Chili? Did you bite into a hot chili pepper?
Shadow's eyes shot to Tails. Despite the water threatening to fall, he demanded to know what that meant.
They can range from mild heat to extremely hot. Extremely can burn everything and heat you up if you can't handle it.
He grimaced. But as if something clicked in the black sapient, who had a storm brewing on his face.
Chili, Sonic!
He screamed out and whipped his head to the offender, only he wasn't there. That's when they heard the loud laughter coming from the hallway. That blue idiot.
You blue rat.
Vengeance is mine?
They heard him call out, cackling like a mad hedgehog, and Shadow was quivering with rage and the pain from the chili. Tails had a sheepish smile on his face and could just see his brother was going to get pummeled. And he wasn't wrong. Shadow barreled down the attic and Sonic zipped away, knowing he won't charge after the blue hedgehog outside in a public street. Knuckles had to pin himself against the wall as Shadow barreled past, shouting after Sonic, and he held onto the door, looking very much like a crazy hedgehog, and the echidna looked up the stairs for clarification as Tails raced down to the top of the stairs from the attic.
Sonic pranked him.
He did?
The echidna looked towards the commotion.
Very bold of him, considering how strong Shadow can be.
He said, unpinning himself from the wall.
Then again, as much as I love our blue brother, he doesn't think things through.
Sonic started dancing in the front garden, sticking his tongue out, and waved his fingers at the black hedgehog, daring him to try. Daring him when humans could be walking about. Shadow practically had steam coming out his ears. The nerve of that blue fur ball. Sonic was enjoying this. Shadow was grinding his teeth, and if looks could kill, Sonic would have been dead on the spot.
I'm gonna wring your scrawny little neck.
Shadow hissed at the blue hedgehog.
You can't stay out there forever.
Is that a challenge I hear? I, Sonic Wachowski, hereby accept.
He got a large growl off the black hedgehog and he laughed even more.
I said, I'd have vengeance.
Shadow snarled and stomped back into the living room, steam just pouring off him, making Knuckles and Tails give him a wide enough berth, and the rat was still laughing outside. As if that wasn't bad enough, as the day progressed, Shadow was doing schoolwork with Tails. It took the fox and the echidna more than an hour to calm him down. Sonic still hadn't come back and Maddie and Tom printed out sheets and wanted to see how far Shadow was actually along in the schooling department, so every so often an afternoon Tails would host a study group. Everyone had their own levels and sheets to complete, the Black Sapient wasn't any different. Which was what he and Tails were currently doing, Knuckles joining in, always looking to improve one's skills. Sonic must be content staying outside, they thought. He got up to go get a drink of water for the kid and himself. No sooner that he did, when he stepped into the hallway he was hit by a balloon that popped against him and covering half of his body and quills with odd texture like foam. It was watery, mushy. He stood there absolutely dumbfounded as it dripped of him, one side covered in this white stuff and the other completely normal. Tails and Knuckles' mouth dropped open at the mess of the hall and the black hedgehog. Then they heard the boisterous and unapologetic laugh of a blue brother.
Vengeance Part 2.
He cackled from where he was and zipped past the black hedgehog throwing glitter all over him like a congratulatory thing. The two sapients saw him shake, either with anger or frustration, or both. They swear they could hear the sound of a kettle going off when it's had too much steam building up, that whistle-like sound, radiating off the ebony hedgehog. Shadow slowly turned his head towards the both of them, looking very much ready to beat the crap out of Sonic. Knuckles tried to see the bright side.
At least his quest of vengeance is finished.
He tried to helpfully add. It did not help. Shadow had to take another shower after he and Knuckles cleaned up the hedgehog's mess, silently promising to pay back the idiot the first chance he got. Then again he does suppose this pays back from the ceiling incident and maybe the alarm clock. It was even now, so that meant no more. Oh, how wrong he was. Sonic must have gotten a mischievous joy out of the pranks. Because it didn't take him long to do something else to the Black Sapient. Shadow sat down on the armchair and leaned back against the pillow, about to open his mouth and speak to Tails when an air horn sound went off. Loudly, making him jump off the chair and yelp, wondering where it came from. He pulled back the pillow and saw it. Sonic must have planted it there.
That idiot!
He shouted. He just heard the idiot laugh. He could just see that stupid mocking face. Tails shook his head and snickered. The Blue Sapient was definitely finding creative ways to prank the Black Hedgehog. And he was winning at it later. Shadow and Knuckles were in the middle of discussing when to do the training and how to fit it into the timetable. The echidna stood on the stool chair, opened the cupboard to get a snack, only for colorful balls to rain down on both him and Shadow. Both immediately knew who it was.
Sonic!
How did he manage that? Another point to the Blue Sapient. Shadow now cautiously began to go around the house. He went to the hallway and fully intended to go into the kitchen to put fresh water in Ozzy's water bowl, and just as he stepped in, his face went into some invisible thing, and he fell right onto his back and he blinked. He sat up, spotting the see-through foil tape to the door at either side.
That blue idiot!
Shadow screamed, alerting to Knuckles and Tails. He struck again. Grandfather Tommy would be proud with the amount of pranks Sonic was managing to come up with. He and Knuckles went to go outside into the decking to do yoga, with him turning his head to the fox to answer a question, and extremely cold water poured onto both of them, both yelling out from the sudden cold, and absolutely soaked. 2 buckets were above them. Tails couldn't hold in his laughter and fell to the floor. Unapologetic laughter could be heard throughout. Knuckles was not afraid, however, to chase his blue brother in the street, which earned a high-pitched scream from him. Good, Shadow thought. Let the rat be punished.
Come here.
Angry Red Rhino!
The blue hedgehog screamed loudly, filled with mischief. Any humans who went by just shook their head and went along their business, so used to the antics of Sonic. Chaos, he didn't stop. As if that wasn't bad enough, Shadow went to open one of the books he and Tails were about to go over, and something flew out. Scaring him enough, he let out another yelp and tossed the book, and it hit the wall with a great big thump, startling the fox from the sound and Ozzy from both. He sat there frozen, mind catching up with him, and he groaned as he heard the sounds of snorting and chuckling away. He hissed in annoyance and covered his face. It was a paper butterfly. He's going to wring his neck. Tails groaned too and rubbed his head. His brother isn't doing himself any favors. And he's ruining the question time he planned to ask Shadow. Shadow took deep breaths and mentally counted.
Tails?
Yeah?
One more. If he even dares, I will make sure his hands don't work anymore.
Shadow flatly said, and Tails fully believed him. If only Sonic would listen. It was about then their parents came home from work. Maddie first, and she cooked dinner, wondering why Sonic was outside the front yard just relaxing, and Knuckles informed her his quest of vengeance is complete, neglecting the fact that he's overdoing said quest. Tom came home just in time for dinner, and everyone ate at the kitchen island. Shadow had calmed down at this point and was thinking he was safe. Oh no, how wrong he was. The universe curse did exist. Because Sonic existed. As he's munching away trying another new meal, he's yet to have a cheeseburger. He was fully enjoying it when something slapped him across the head and face. He dropped his burger and let out a startled sound. Tom and Maddie blinked, then Tom started snorting, as did a certain blue hedgehog. Right on Shadow's face was a piece of cheese. He hates him. He hates this blue hedgehog.
Tails?
Tails knew what was coming. He gulped.
No, Shadow.
Shadow practically jumped over the island, causing Sonic to high-pitched scream, not believing he would try in front of his parents, and both went to the floor. Knuckles did not get involved and munched away. Tom and Maddie had to hurriedly get up and raced over at Shadow's attempt to wrestle with the blue hedgehog.
I'll wring your sorry neck!
He hissed, but Sonic kept laughing, and that just made it worse.
Knuckles, a little help?
Tom tried pulling Shadow off his blue child. But Knuckles did no such thing. He just kept munching away.
You backstabbing knucklehead.
I love you too, brother. I shall prepare a pyre for you.
He did not bother to grace him by turning around. Tails pig-like snorted, unable to hide his amusement. Even if Sonic did deserve this. Shadow did have a lot of strength. Tom was holding onto the hedgehog's sides and trying to lift him, and he wasn't for having it, and he certainly did not care about the touch issue either. His goal was this idiot. Maddie tried dragging Sonic, but to no avail. It became a game of Twister at that point, limbs tangled into each other and lots of yelling from both their parents and the two stubborn hedgehogs. With Maddie threatening to ground them. Tom Herbie dubbed these two morons the Disaster Twins. Chaotic dinner, and the adults found out why Shadow finally lunged for Sonic. He had snapped after one-to-many pranks, and their blue child had the nerve to say it was so he could experience the humorous side of life. Shadow did not look impressed with his logic. At least it was harmless, minus the chilly situation, which Tom and Maddie scolded Sonic on. Tails and the Black Hedgehog were currently going over the books. One of them was about NASA, and all other sorts of space stuff. Tails did see the lack of surprise and wonder off Shadow. It was like he knew some of it, or at least that was the vibe he was getting. Everyone else was doing their own thing. Knuckles was with the Master Emerald in training again. Sonic was playing the Zelda game, and their parents were watching a TV show, Ozzy sleeping next to them. Tails had questions, and he wanted some of them answered, if anything just to make the puzzles fit.
I can't believe that it's almost June. You've been here nearly 4 weeks now.
Tails mused, flipping another page, looking it over. He played the long waiting game for this. Shadow's ears went up.
Is that so? Huh, I didn't even realize.
Shadow was reading about the solar system.
Yeah, almost a month on the dot. Time flies by, doesn't it?
Tails secretly began to move the page onto the space shuttle section, so he could feign surprise and ask away without it making it look like he was interrogating the ebony hedgehog.
I'm just sorry you haven't seen the rest of the town.
Shadow hummed, taking a sip of his drink. That's true, he hasn't wandered into town mostly because of other humans. But he can't hide away forever as much as he wants to. The danger of people discovering him meant the danger of GUN finding this location, and he's not sure how to go about it. How can he tell Tom and Maddie that though? But his eyes caught the page Tails was on, and his eyes lit up in recognition. He took Tails' bait without realizing it.
What section is that aircraft on?
He leaned forward to get a better look of the space shuttle. Tails cheered inside.
It's a space shuttle. You've seen this one.
Shadow tilted his head.
So, it's not an airplane. At least not in the same category as one.
No, this is for space travel. I'm just curious how you know this.
You'd see these shuttles come and go every so often. So it's not an aircraft. I should have remembered that.
He casually said, not realizing it was anything but casual. Everyone went quiet and began to stare to the oblivious hedgehog, and Tails swallowed, but then his mind clicked. A research facility in space? Tails blinked.
Wait, a research facility in space? I hadn't seen that on Mobius or here bookwise.
But Shadow shook his head.
You wouldn't have. It was government funded, and as far as I'm aware, its existence was kept private. I only know because that is where I came from. That, and Professor Gerald told me he was the one who built it.
Shadow still did not see the hole he was digging. He was answering questions but also adding more.
Shadow? You were on the space colony? Not Mobius?
Shadow paused and gave the kid a look, wondering if he should be honest or try and make up a lie, to appear normal than he is. He decided on the truth. He couldn't do that to the fox. He sighed and nodded solemnly.
Her grandfather created the space colony to keep the illness at bay while they looked for a cure.
Sonic and Tails were not there for the conversation about Maria's illness, but the other three were, and their eyes softened at the realization. But now there was even bigger questions. Grandfather? Then Tom gasped. Shadow mentioned a professor here and there. Is it the same one?
So your grandfather was on this space colony too?
Tails' two tails flicked up and down. Shadow sat up straighter and began to rub his ring from the nervousness that was starting to build.
I'm not sure if he ever saw me that way.
He muttered. He knew the professor loved him to a degree, but that died the day the Ark was raided, the day the scientists were killed. The day Maria was killed. The Master Emerald sent its energy to the Black Hedgehog, trying to comfort his rising emotions, and he sighed, biting his lip.
Space Colony Ark.
He stated as if going off a script he remembers.
The greatest scientific research lab in all of human history. It was almost as big as a large comet, maybe even more.
How the heck has no one seen this colony if its size is that? This was worrying but also intriguing. Safe. Shadow heard the Master Emerald again and he swallowed. Anxious began to build up in him. Tom said they would be there for him, however the danger of them actually knowing was great. And he knew in himself that he is a freak of nature, he isn't a real Mobian. They'd change their minds. The doubt that lingered into his mind. No judgment. That's easy for it to say. It's not the one with the past nor can explain what Shadow was, he himself can barely explain how he came to be. Just what they told him. He was created. But something Shadow said also made Tom pause. He said human history. What?
Shadow, is this space colony Ark around Mobius or Earth?
It's outside of Earth's atmosphere. Mobians did not create the Ark. Humans did.
Tails' eyes widened dramatically. The implication, Shadow was born on the Ark. He was never on Mobius. He's been with humans all his life, scientists and military. No wonder he has such a huge hesitation on them. Him and Maria were stuck with humans.
You said this Gerald made the Ark. But he's human?
Tom pointed out. Shadow began to look quite nervous, ready to bolt out the door at any moment.
That's because it's like your situation. Gerald and Maria were human.
You could hear a pin drop. Then where did Shadow fit in? Or his parents? No one made a move, because of the aura Shadow was vibrating with, that he was ready to run and not look back. Then that meant Shadow was adopted the same way the other three were. They weren't related by blood. They were similar in that regard, but does that mean Shadow was tested on by Gerald?
How did you end up on a space colony? Where were your birth parents?
But Shadow began to breathe quickly, looking at the floor. He wasn't willing to see their gazes. Tom got up hearing that and slowly made his way to the Black Sapient, as did Maddie. Knuckles grew in concern for his parents. Tails pursed his lip.
I'm a freak.
Shadow spoke as if saying the sky was blue and the grass was green. Tails' mouth dropped open.
I'm not normal. No matter how hard I try to be,
Tom was crouched and reached out to Shadow, who flinched and pushed himself away.
Shadow, you are not a freak. What you've gone through I can never comprehend, but that in no shape or form makes you a freak.
Shadow swallowed hard, his heart threatening to burst out of his chest.
You say that, but you are wrong.
Shadow.
My blood. My healing. I've seen your faces where my wounds didn't leave any trace. The pitiful looks, the sorrow. I don't need your pity.
Shadow, it's not pity.
Maddie tried to, but Shadow was working himself up. Tails started to feel quite bad. He brought this up when he shouldn't have.
I'm not like everyone else. I'm not even like them.
He gestured to Sonic, who blinked, his concern rising. Knuckles got up, ready to jump in.
Shadow.
Tom tried reaching but got a loud warning growl off the Black Sapient and he frowned.
You are like them. No matter what you say, you are a Mobian. Me and Maddie are sad for you, bud. What you went through, what they made you go through. No one should have to be put in that position and treated like they were less than a person.
Because I'm not a person.
And why do you think like that? Because GUN told you.
Gerald told me.
He screamed, gripping his head tightly with his fingers, and Tom's eyes widened.
His granddaughter, my sister, died because of me.
His breathing became erratic, his eyes became like pins. No. The Master Emerald began to glow brightly in the room. sending its hum to the black sapient, but he couldn't listen to it. He dug painfully into his skull as black spots danced in his vision. His breathing got louder and louder. It tried to break the noise that was forming in his head. His tears threatened to come out. He could hear the screams again, the sound of gunshots as the memory replayed in his head.
Shadow!
Maria called out. She grabbed his hands and defiantly began to pull him into a run, away from the soldiers who shouted for them to stop.
They can't have you, Shadow. I won't let them.
She should have. Because she may have survived if she did. She lay there in his arms. He felt soldiers grab at him, pulling with all their might, his quills, his arms, to get him away from her. No matter how much he begged them and fought against them, they kept pulling, then eventually they jabbed something in his neck. They wouldn't let him grieve. He felt someone touch his hand, breaking him out the memory, and he recoiled. He yelled, golden red sparks and Shadow's fist hitting the offender, who yelped out in pain. Shadow shot his head up and his heart dropped. It wasn't a soldier he struck. No. Tom was on his back. The low wooden coffee table lay under him destroyed, loudly groaning as leftover sparks sizzled against his hand, which now spotted burn marks. Shadow's breath hitched, realizing he just harmed the one man who has done everything in his power to assure and welcome him. He hurt this family. Knuckles was quick to react by examining his father, as was Maddie. Tails had raced over to check on his injured father and began to apologize. Sonic looked ready to deck the black hedgehog. His hackles were risen in warning for him even daring to harm his dad. Sonic was actually growling. Ozzy was sniffing Tom, wondering what happened. Shadow's ears could hear them all talk over each other, and he could hear his own heartbeat. It got louder and louder with the realization.
I'm fine.
He sat himself up with some help from Maddie, looking at the burn marks on his hand, and hissed in pain. His shoulder and back were definitely gonna bruise if his eldest's throat is anything to go by. But then his eyes met Shadow's red ones, and the sapient couldn't bear to see hatred in those eyes.
Shadow.
Tom called out, but Shadow didn't let him finish it. Shadow let out a startled cry and hurriedly ran, grabbing his shoes and put them on as quick as he possibly could. People began to yell after him. The Master Emerald tried to send its intent, but to no avail. And he zipped out of the house, leaving his golden red trail with great speed and into the woods. He didn't know where he was going. He had no destination, nor did he really know the better parts of the entirety Green Hills by heart. He skated as his heart threatened to burst out, the emotions strangling him. The memory of him hurting Tom replying in his mind over and over, and envisioning the hatred they all would have for him now. He doesn't know how long he skated along. He just needed to get away, before Sonic tries to find him. Green Hills all looked the same, wooded areas, large forests and mountain hills. As long as he gets far enough. He can't go back there anymore. He wasn't paying attention. He should have been. He skated onto a paved road, and didn't notice an oncoming car, which alerted him too late. When it tried to loudly skid to a stop, it slammed into his leg and hip and he cried out. It sent him flying onto further down the paved road and he skidded across it. He hissed in pain and for his stupidity. He groaned as his vision had black spots dancing around it. His knees and parts of his arms were scraped. His ears were ringing too. He felt a strong beaming headlight on him, and someone hurriedly opened the car door. The way the black sapient and the car collided, actually destroyed right side of the headlight and left a great indent from the force. Shadow pushed himself up on all fours as his body quaked in waves, and he bit back the pain his throat wanted to voice. That's gonna definitely bruise.
Shadow?
He heard a familiar voice and his head shot up, eyes pinprick, seeing Wade look quite startled and worried.
Oh my gosh, Shadow, I didn't see you. I'm so sorry, buddy.
The deputy stammered out and pulling out his phone, speed dialing someone while making his way to the sapient.
What have I done?
Shadow could barely hear him. The hitch-pitch ringing was getting louder. But his ears picked up a name.
Tom?
Wade started off with. No. No. Shadow felt the bile rise up in panic.
Listen, Shadow.
Shadow didn't hesitate, no matter how bad his hip or leg were asking him not to move. He skated off, leaving his golden red blur.
Don't run, Shadow.
He heard Wade scream for him. He skated into another wooded area, panting hard, his heart threatening to come out further. Wade saw him. He could give Sonic a location. He skated even faster, panting harder, his ears were still ringing too. He doesn't know how long he was running this time either. He kept glancing back worriedly, thinking Sonic would somehow be there behind him. He should be paying attention in front. He turned his head, he saw a herd of deer in front of him too late. When he heard their startled sounds, he too let out his own. In an effort to not collide with the animals, he skidded hard, did a rough twist in order to not hit into them. His foot struck a rock and he went flying to the side, rolling down one of the hills, tumbling about with leaves and twigs digging into him as well as other rocks. He didn't right himself up in time either, and he went back first into a tree and he screamed out in pain, sending a decent-sized golden red explosion of sparks. The tree split in half at the upper section from the explosion and he heard it begin to fall. He hurriedly tried to get up, but some unknown force kept him against the tree, so his hand haphazardly slammed at the back of him, at the bottom of the tree, which snapped something the bottom of it maybe? In the process, despite his back screaming at him, he felt one area of it was hot and wet, but he paid it no mind. He was free, so he jumped out of the way as the tree came crashing down and he rolled down a hill further, with it chasing him. Both had no control, they just kept going. The fallen tree got stuck between two other ones. He eventually landed himself in a solid level terrain. He fell forward, landing on his front, scraping his entire body from the force of the fall, and he winced. His gloves took the damage, so his hands weren't too bad at least. His arms were cut, his knees were cut, every part of him was cut from the tumbling. Already injured from the paved road, it just added more. His back was screaming, his muscles quaking with pain in some specific areas, but he couldn't bring himself to look or care. His back was wet. The sound of snapping meant he snapped 2 areas of the poor tree. He panted hard, trying to catch his breath. The pain of his back was taking the pain off his hip and leg at least. His ears twitched and caught the familiar sound of water. He looked up to find he somehow went flying and fell onto the lake's location. He shakily forced himself up and limped down the familiar path that he was at the Sunday before the Mobius visit. What was today actually? He wondered why he's lost track of the days. He was covered in leaves and dirt, cut up areas like his knees and arms, so parts of him were stained in blood, not a lot but still. And something wet was still on his back. It was warm and it felt like it ran down the back of his leg. But he couldn't bring himself to look. He didn't care, it was probably some type of honey or tree sap. He just kept going. He lost track how long he hobbled forward, but he noticed the shoreline area where he and Tom had gone fishing. He swallowed hard. He made his way to that area and slowly sat himself down, and he bit back a loud hiss. He curled himself up, hugging his knees, and rested his head upon them, the events catching up to him, and he let out a wail. Tears ran down his muzzle, onto his knees. He ruined it. He hurt the only people who ever cared other than Maria. The professor cared right until she died and told him he regretted ever making the black hedgehog. And he couldn't blame him. He then tried wiping his eyes, in an effort to stop the tears, but they wouldn't, no matter how he kept doing so. He could hear the director laugh in his ears, telling him that he was right, that Shadow was a monster, a tool that only brings misfortune and pain to people. That all he ever will do is hurt people. Shadow gritted his teeth, painfully grinding them together as the voice kept going. He shakily reached up and painfully dug his fingers into his arm, his flesh and fur aching from the pressure and pain as he heard that awful man tell bittersweet truths. He could feel the Master Emerald's energy, the rhythmic hum trying to assure him, comfort him. But it didn't, not this time. He doesn't know how long he stayed there, how long he wept, nor did he register what he did either. He was lost in his hatred of the director that he didn't see or feel that he had tore up his right arm. In his other hand was a blooded sharp stick, hitting into his upper arm over and over, stabbing it in an effort to get the director's hands off him. He remembers his disgusting human touch, and he wanted it gone. Blood ran down the hedgehog's arm into his hand below and the hand he had stabbed the stick with. How long did he do that for? But it still didn't feel like it was enough. He could still feel him, hear him, mocking him. His tears began to lessen, leaving dried streak marks upon his muzzle. How long has it been since he'd been there at the lake? He tossed the stick hard, grunting. He hasn't done himself any favors, his right arm, his left leg and hip, his back. He just felt completely numb to the pain now. The moon shined against the lake. It set up the blue of the lake aglow. Its beautiful but bittersweet presence did little for the sapient, who stared blankly, numbly at its dark and light colors of blue, blood seeping off his arm onto the stones below. The ground underneath was wet, an area of his back was wet, his arm was wet. But he still could not care. He was beginning to feel tired. He didn't register a flashlight or two further ahead. He still gazed at the lake, with the moon's shape reflected on it. He should find it beautiful, but he just felt numb. Dead. He didn't hear anything other than the water. He didn't hear people call his name. The familiar hum he tuned out as well. It was all dead to the black sapient. His ears weren't working with his clouded mind. But what eventually got his attention was the moving light at the side of him further away in the forest. He saw one on the other side of the lake, then more. They were flickering about all over the place. He numbly watched them, then another was on the back of his quills. He didn't know that. What were those light?
Shadow?
He heard a familiar man call out, breaking the director's mocking inside his ears, and his heart stopped. No, it couldn't be. He hesitated to look.
Oh my gosh. There you are.
The voice called again in relief, and he whipped around to find Tom, who was coming over to the black sapient.
Maddie, Wade! Over here.
He yelled as loud as he could as he waved at the side further ahead, the side light in the woods, and the other from side of the lake was rushing towards the other one. Tom was about to reach out, but Shadow hurriedly pushed himself away. He didn't have the strength to get up, rocks shuffling underneath him, and Tom froze.
Saint, stay away from me.
Shadow cried out, edging close to the water, his back facing the lake. He let out a snarl to keep him at bay. Tom hadn't noticed the damage he had done, the blood he had on him just yet. The human turned off his flashlight and crouched slowly to the hedgehog's level, but stayed at his distance at the sapient's frantic request.
Okay, Shadow, okay.
Tom tried to examine him. After all, Wade struck him with his car. It was an accident, but he couldn't hide the worry. Shadow whined and tried wiping his tears, in another pitiful attempt to stop them after seeing Tom's now bandaged hand. That, and he doesn't want the human to see him in this state.
Bud, it's okay, it was an accident.
That didn't make Shadow feel any better. He already harmed the echidna, now he harmed the sheriff. He still made another futile attempt at stopping his tears. His muzzle was riddled with streaks of dried and fresh tears, and wiped blood on it from his bloodied hand. His body was riddled with tension and pain. Tom took a deep breath and edged himself closer quietly as he could. But his hand went into something wet and he looked, spotting blood on said hand, and his eyes widened. His head shot up, turning on his flashlight again for the moment. Putting it on the sapient, he took notice of Shadow's misshapen shape. Leaves and twigs stuck out, but his arm was bloodied, some still going down the black sapient's arm, still like a trail, and onto his own gloved hand. His ebony fur camouflaged it in the night. He was horrified.
Oh, Bud? What?
He must have moved too quickly, because Shadow's frantic eyes shot at how close he was getting, and he pushed himself backwards, making the sheriff freeze, not wanting him to go into the water. His left bloodied hand already in a puddle of water. He was nearing the lake's line.
Shadow, you're hurt. Let me help you.
He turned off his flashlight again, and put it away in his trouser pocket, so he didn't spook him further. But that didn't help. Shadow wouldn't look him in the eye. He kept trying to stop his tears, and they only got worse the more he did it.
I know you didn't mean it. It was an accident.
His breathing was erratic. He was a mess both physically and mentally. He got worse the more he noticed Tom and how close he was. So Tom put his hands up to show he didn't have anything. He posed no threat to the sapient, at least physically. But Tom had to remember the pain other humans put Shadow through, physical and emotional, no matter how strong the hedgehog actually was. He swallowed and braved a little shuffle closer. Shadow's ears were pinned against his head, his body was shaking and was riddled with despair. He still wasn't looking at him.
Can I edge closer?
But he shook his head, and his hands went to his head, his fingers dug in, and Tom halted in his attempt.
All right, Bud.
This was delicate. He saw Maddie and Wade on the left side of the forest and hand gestured to his neck in order for them to halt their movements, which they did. He couldn't afford this to make Shadow bolt. He doesn't want him going into the water.
Don't come near me.
Shadow sounded hoarse.
Stay away.
He cried out again. He snarled, showing the sheriff his fangs. Hackles were up in an effort to keep him back. Tom pursed his lip but stayed in his position, his hands held out for Shadow to see that he was harmless once again, that he was no threat.
Shadow, bud, it's okay.
He heard a whimper off him.
It's okay.
He repeated. Shadow sobbed, unable to keep it back.
I hurt you.
I know.
I didn't mean to.
I know.
He repeated, edging himself ever so slightly closer, hands still out for him to see, his knees against the rocks.
Shadow, it was an accident.
Why don't you hate me?
Shadow dared to look at him but still not in the eyes, making the human freeze.
I could never hate you.
Tom spoke with certainty. Shadow felt his heart stop. His breathing stopped for a few seconds.
You did not hurt me intentionally, Shadow. How could I hate you over an accident?
Don't say that you couldn't. The professor!
Tom grimaced.
But I'm not him.
He once said he considered, but then when she died, he said he regretted ever creating me.
Shadow.
He grew to hate me.
Shadow couldn't hold it anymore.
You don't know me, Tom.
I do know you.
He edged himself ever more, but Shadow did take notice and pushed himself a little more towards the water.
You can't. You've known me weeks.
But Shadow, that's still enough to know some of you.
He wasn't understanding.
Those who know me die.
He screamed and the sheriff's eyes widened.
They killed everyone on the Ark. To get to me, you can't know me.
His tears kept coming. He started to choke and made another effort in trying to make them stop, wiping blood all over his muzzle and face, not at all caring that his arm was still bleeding.
You say that now, but you'll eventually hate me when you know the truth.
He choked.
Like everyone else does.
He can't bring himself to look at him, or those eyes, and face the truth. Tom had to be lying. He had to.
I could never hate you.
He repeated, and Shadow let out a pitiful whine.
The professor.
I'm not him.
But
I'm not him.
His voice held no room for argument. It was loud and unapologetic. The sapient froze.
Shadow, I am not Gerald.
He could vaguely make out the human gesture to himself.
I will not hate or blame you over something other people had control of. I'm not that type of person. What truth would make it so bad that I would change how I felt in a matter of seconds?
He had to tell him. He owes this man, this family a lot. True, it had only been nearly a full month, but he's never experienced such things, the love and care, the understanding. Not since Maria was alive, when the Ark was still active. Let in. The familiar presence of the emerald encouraged him to. Like it knew differently. It sent its intent like a warm embrace. Letting the black sapient know it was near. That it was okay to tell what Gerald did. That he made the black hedgehog.
His name was Professor Gerald Robotnik.
He said, defeated in voice, and Tom froze, completely going still.
He created the Ark to help his ailing granddaughter Maria.
Robotnik? Tom looked in alarm. This Gerald and Maria were related to the one who tried to hurt Sonic? No way. It couldn't be possible.
Did you say Robotnik?
Tom whispered out in horror, but Shadow didn't seem to pick up on it. He numbly nodded, his fist gripping the rocks below him.
He was the greatest scientist I had ever come to know.
He swallowed hard as the tears fell from him.
I exist because Maria did.
Tom looked at Shadow in horror with the implication.
I'm an experiment.
His voice sounded so defeated, and Tom pursed his lip.
No, you aren't.
Gerald created me.
He made no effort in hiding his tears this time, and Tom looked even more horrified.
I wasn't born in a mother's womb, Tom. I was made inside of a testing tube.
He gritted his teeth, still unable to look him in the eye to see the disgust, the hate. He can't, not on this kind man.
If I wasn't created, then none of that would have happened.
He said it, he's admitted to it. And he didn't want to, but he owed it to this man and his kind family. This kind human who thought he was a real Mobian, like his kids, like the other sapients. He knows the danger of what Shadow is now. That GUN would kill at any cost. To keep him. The month he had, to pretend he was normal, has come to an end. Chaos, he feels so tired. Why is he so tired? Tom digested the information, things were beginning to click into place. The way Shadow went quiet about his question about Mobius, if he had remembered it, The time they all went to Mobius he was in wonder, the stuff he's experienced here, he's never seen it because all his life, he was in a research facility. One created by some Gerald Robotnik who somehow found out about Mobians, then made Shadow based off one, but how? How true was it? He lived above the planet, inside of a space colony, and the other was GUN, who kept him as a prisoner. Because of what he was. He's one big secret that was never to get out. And his heart broke to pieces. Shadow wanted to protect him, protect his family from the knowledge of what he was. That he may be the only successful attempt at artificial life, and that is why he was captured by government-funded maniacs. But that only implied if Gerald was actually telling the truth about the sapient. What have they stumbled upon? A government conspiracy? His rage only grew. Not at Shadow. At the humans who did this to him, the implications that Shadow was experimented on by who knows what, day in and day out. By the man he loved, by Gerald. He took it all for his beloved human sister Maria, who sounded like she was similar to how Tom felt when it came to his family. But GUN took that away, then they continued to experiment on him, keeping him as a lab rat. A personal trophy. He could never hate this kid, the other people. Yeah. Hate was a nasty strong word. But Tom was edging close to it. Shadow doesn't have an idea about the Robotnik that tried to kill Sonic, and tried to destroy the town, tried take over the world. That much he gathered, or he wouldn't be telling him this. Or if he did, it was by the nickname Sonic had given him. There was a lot of information to sink in. But he came first, Shadow has to come first. Freakout came later.
I don't care about any of that.
He said, earning a puzzled choke of the hedgehog who stared at the ground in disbelief.
You are still a person, Shadow. You have a soul. Like I do, like Maddie. Like Knuckles, Sonic, and Tails. That makes you just as real as them and us.
Shadow let out a loud sob and held his blooded hand to his face, not believing what he was hearing, from a human no less. Tom was confusing to him. How can he say that?
Can I come over?
Shadow swallowed but didn't acknowledge him, so Tom took that as a yes and edged himself more closer using his knees and stayed at the hedgehog's level, and was nearly close enough to touch him. Shadow did not make an effort to move further back towards the water. Tom took a deep breath.
Thank you for telling me.
He hesitantly started off. It was a surprise to the human, sure, that somehow life was created and by a Robotnik no less, but he had that doubt, that he actually did it. He couldn't let it sink in properly, not when there's a distraught kid in front of him. Shadow came first, Freakout second, so he'll do that later, when no one's looking.
I'm not Gerald, Shadow, and I stand by what I said. I could never hate you.
I'm a freak of nature, Tom.
His voice cracked. He can't take this anymore. Someone needs to fight for Shadow. And be there for him, in his times of need. He's attached to him. Painfully so.
Shadow, look at me.
But he didn't, he was afraid to see his kind eyes change. So Tom reached very slowly and his hands touched the sapient's cheeks, feeling the stains of blood and tears.
Look at me.
He repeated, but Shadow couldn't. He didn't want to see those eyes, in case what Tom was saying was wrong. Eyes held the truth about a person after all. Windows to the soul.
Don't you say that. Don't you ever say that about yourself. You are different, sure, but by no means are a freak.
He lifted the sad-stricken hedgehog's face to his own. And Shadow did not see the hate or disgust in those blue eyes of his like he thought. He saw sadness, he saw tears in his eyes. Some already fell down the human's cheeks.
Why are you crying?
He choked out.
Because I'm hurting for you.
Tom swallowed.
But this doesn't change how I feel about you. And it won't with Maddie either. Or the boys.
Tom hoped so. The word Robotnik may rub a lot of them the wrong way. Shadow swallowed. He didn't want the other three to know about this. Not until he's ready. He's already told Tom, he doesn't think he could see their reactions or handle it either. That they've shared with an artificial hedgehog. But what Tom said next made him freeze.
We love you, Shadow.
Tom said with certainty, thumbing the hedgehog's tears gently, pressing his head against the sapient's own. Like he does when he comforts him, Shadow was frozen in place.
I told you we will be there for you no matter what, and I meant it.
His own tears fell against the black hedgehog and Shadow choked even more.
But I'm not a child of yours. I'm not family.
He tried to find ways to counter him, to pull up his walls once more. He had to push this man away for his own protection.
But that doesn't mean you don't need a father and mother.
Tom whispered to the black hedgehog, whose eyes widened and looked at him, startled with his certainty in tone, his declaration.
It took us a while to find you, didn't it, Shadow? You are home.
And he let out a large and unrestrained sob and leaned into this human, who hugged him with all his might and assurance, both of them on their knees, letting go of the tears unashamedly, and wept. Shadow clung onto him tightly, allowing this embrace. It was something he never thought he needed or wanted. But Green Hills kept surprising him. This family kept surprising him. That this was his home now. He had a home. Maria, he had a home again. Tom had blood on his hands, his outfit from Shadow's maimed arm, but he didn't care. He listened to this poor kid's sobs and shed tears with him. Both were a mess. He looked up to see Maddie and Wade at the edge of the woods, watching their exchange with concern and sadness. He gave them a small smile. They had the other three with them who also watched the exchange, respecting the decision to stay back so Tom could handle it. He moved his hand down to lift Shadow up when he felt more wetness on his back. He pulled back his hand to see the blood on it. How did he get blood on his back? Confused, he drifted his hand further down and felt something. His eyes widened and he leaned over the sapient and saw it. A piece of a tree's trunk had lodged itself in Shadow's lower back, threatening to go right through his stomach and onto the other side, and he cried out in alarm. He didn't see it because of the darkness. His flashlight only caught the hedgehog's upper quills when he first found him, and the black sapient had his back facing the lake while he tried to get away. Shadow's had this piece inside him the whole time he's been out here? Why didn't he say? He felt Shadow was going limp in his arms. His eyes widened in fear. No, 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 not now.
Shadow?
He pulled back, seeing the dazed look upon his face. His eyes were unfocused now. The adrenaline was fading, the blood going down his arm, and the fact Tom just noticed the blood on his leg, and underneath the black hedgehog, his shoes were seeped in it, stained. They both were in the puddle that was Shadow's blood. It was catching up, his body needed the rest. But if Shadow closed his eyes here and now, he might not wake up again. He needs the clinic. Now.
Maddie?
Tom screamed frantically, startling both humans at the edge, and she hurriedly ran towards her husband. The other three sapients jumped at the urgency. Shadow let out a small groan, edging himself into Tom and his body heat. Wanting to close his eyes and fall asleep to the heat he gave off. He suddenly felt cold. It didn't help how tired he had been feeling, getting worse as time went.
No, Shadow.
Tom lifted the hedgehog up into his arms, who limply let him, both of them still on their knees. Shadow's arms fell to his sides, no longer having strength, looking like a rag doll against Tom.
Don't close your eyes just yet, please.
The black hedgehog heard the desperation in his voice but couldn't understand why. His eyelids drooped heavily and he really just wanted to sleep his heartache away. Sleep away the pain that quaked him in waves now. Pain that came full force. His back was hot again, screaming at him. All he did was take a tumble, so why was he in agony all of a sudden? He tried to speak, but he didn't have the strength for that. Where did his strength go?
Maddie.
He heard Tom scream again, but his voice was beginning to drown out.
He's hurt?
He vaguely heard the shuffling and hurried steps of other people against the rocky terrain of the lake's shore edge.
Shadow, stay awake.
The human was becoming hysterical. He felt being held against the human's chest, but he couldn't quite make out his heartbeat, and lots of movement, with people talking over each other. What was happening? Even the rhythmic hum was beginning to drown out. He couldn't make out the sounds anymore. What was happening to him?